What is going on, Fightful Faithful? Welcome back here to Fightful Overbooked. Once again, it is me, Corey Brennan, here today with another interview with Mr. Luke Jacobs, one of the hottest young wrestlers in the world today, taking over the British wrestling scene by storm. How are you doing today, Luke?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Not bad.
Not bad, not bad. And I do want to just get straight into it, so let's go. Super Strong Style 16. Last year, you came up a little short. You got to the semi-finals, came up a little short. This year, you went in pretty much like a man possessed, I felt like. And you went all the way. You won the tournament. What did it mean to you to win the tournament as someone who's been around in progress for the last few years?
Well, I think it was sort of the change I wanted and the change I needed because, like you said, last year I made it to the semis, and last year I sort of went in with the attitude of it's my first strong style. I'll give it a go, and hopefully I might be able to win. And this year I just thought sack that. I thought this whole weekend it's not about coming in and giving it a go and just being glad I'm in the strong style tournament. It was coming in. It's about making a statement. Forget giving it a go. Having that attitude now is going to get you nowhere. If you want to be the man, you've got to act like the man, and you've got to want it. So I just went in and I thought I'm going to take this, and yeah, I think I won it pretty convincingly in the end. So
And you did have to run kind of a pretty big gauntlet to get through it. You had Mike D in the opening round, you had Eddie Dennis, and then you had Ricky Knight Jr. in the final. I do want to ask you specifically about that final because, oh man, what a match. Just 20 plus minutes of you two just beating the snot out of each other. Were you happy with how that match turned out? Happy with the win? Just some general thoughts on that match.
I mean, of course, I'm glad I won in the end. But
Yeah.
I can't say I went through the whole match, without taking a beating. Good God, I'm not going to lie, I got the piss beat out of me, but I think he got the same. It was quite a evenly matched final, but I'm not going to lie, Ricky's crazy. He's probably one of the toughest people I've ever met, but he's just a Norwich lad. But then on the other hand, I'm just a lad from Manchester, and I'm a bit off my rocker myself. So, but I was very proud, and I think I showed my brand of professional wrestling, and I put across why I won that tournament in that match because I will do anything to win. I don't care how violent I have to be, or it's just all about winning at the end of the day, and I'll do anything to get to that point. So.
And you mentioned it there, you want to do everything you can to win. Kid Lykos was on commentary for that match, and he was saying how he felt like you could have won the tournament on your own, the right way, but he felt like you went about it the wrong way, the easy way out kind of feel. What's your response to that?
Well, fuck Kid Lykos for one. He can say what he wants, but it doesn't mean anything. I couldn't care less about his opinion. But maybe I could have won it as the good guy, but that's just boring.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I couldn't care less what he thinks of me, whether I won it a good guy or what. Because most of the time, I'm not really a good guy, to be honest. I'm just a lad from Middleton, Manchester, and I couldn't give a shit what anyone thinks of me.
Yeah.
I think I seen Kid Lykos. His real name is Ethan Beach. That's the person I know. He just whinged and he just became a world champion that I was ashamed of, to be honest. I didn't want to work for a company and he's the one above me. Nah, that don't work for me. So he can say what he wants, but I did it my own way and it worked for me. So.
And you did take his head off on the first night of Super Strong Style 16. What was going through your head before you did make that decision to kind of just, right, that's it, I'm making a statement, I'm coming for you, Lykos, that's it?
Well, I'm not going to lie, it definitely wasn't a spur of the moment thing. I think
Mm.
I knew I was going to do that in advance. Even when I probably saw him the week before and I was sat across from him, God knows doing what, and I just thought, look at him and I thought, I'm going to fucking do you in next week. But I just had to wait for the right time. There couldn't have been a more perfect time. And I was hoping he would retain against Haskins. And, when Haskins, went to hit him with the belt, and that probably would have been the end of the match. But I weren't having that. Because there's one person I need to be world champion, because I need to take it from that person, and that is Kid Lykos. So.
And that match is coming up very soon. You called your shot almost immediately after winning the tournament. What would it mean to you to become the Progress World Champion?
I mean, being Progress World Champion is ever since I started in wrestling when I was 15 years old, the thought of being Progress World Champion is something you might put it on a it's not a bucket list. It's not a goal. It's a dream because just think that won't come true. I couldn't do that. but it's literally, one of the most prestigious titles in British wrestling, if not all of independent pro wrestling. There's some of the names that have held that belt, it's just unrivaled as far as legacy that belt has. And, I want to have that belt around me because the pride I would feel, I'd be very proud that I won it the way I did. If I went through all the way through strong style and then took the belt, Kid Lykos didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
He won strong style, lost, and got another chance, and then he fought, 3-4 times the charm. Yeah, that tends to be what happens. So hopefully, I'm going to be the one that wins strong style and wins it on my my first chance. So.
And recently, you actually went up against the man that Lykos did dethrone for the Progress World Championship, Spike the Ray, at a Progress show, and you got the win over him. Does it feel? Is it a feeling going into the match with Lykos that anything he can do, you can do better, kind of feeling?
Well, he can't do anything I can do because I'm a Kid Lykos is a child and I'm a man at the end of the day. But yeah, like you said, I beat Spike Ray. He's beat me in the past when I wasn't quite the wrestler I am now. I had a no disqualification match with him about just over 2 years ago in Manchester. I left that match with thumbtacks all in my back and all that stuff. But that was 2 years ago. Luke Jacobs is a very different wrestler to the lad he was. And I'd say I beat Spike Ray pretty convincingly as well. And there's no taking away from Spike Ray. There's a reason he was a champion for as long as he was. But he also is a bit of a sniveling, sneaky little piece of shit. So, and when he didn't have his group behind him and he just had to go one-on-one and he didn't have all this heat, he hadn't got into my head. He couldn't do all his head games. He got in there with me and he found out what it's all about. And that's same for Kid Lykos, to be honest.
And you mentioned it there, just how much you've kind of just changed even in the last 2 years. But compared to last year's Super Strong Style 16 tournament, where you did come up short, you did say it was kind of you went in kind of thinking, oh, just going to try and see what happens. And then this year you went in, I'm going to win the whole thing. But other than that, is there any other most significant changes that in your abilities, in the way you present yourself, in the way you look at wrestling in general, compared to back last year?
Last year, I think I went into Super Strong Style 16 last year about 220 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I am only 5'10", so it's a lot of weight to have on. But I was built that way because of my pro wrestling style and this I want to use, and that's just how I got the job done. But since last year, I've lost 35 pounds, so I'm a lot slimmer. I'm a lot quicker, but I've still kept all the power, all the technique. Now I'm just quicker and still hit just as fucking hard, but it's just coming at you a lot quicker. And I after that weekend and last year, I thought I had a good year last year, but by the time January 2024 came around, I thought I did all right, but I wanted to do better because I don't just want to be someone lost in the shuffle. I want to be the man. I came into pro wrestling to be the man, and I think if you don't be the man, what the fuck are you doing? But just this year, I'm gonna have to just take it. I'm gonna have to grab everything and take it for myself. And I think I've shown that, and a lot of things I've done this year, and especially Super Strong Style being the biggest statement I have made this year. So.
And this year's Super Strong Style 16 tournament was stacked top to bottom, and obviously the way it works, single round elimination, you don't get to wrestle everyone in the tournament. Is there anyone in the tournament that you did wish you'd cross paths with this year?
I suppose that one of the easy ones would have been Shelton Benjamin, but for the sole reason of he could have come out and I just beat the crap out of him. Man. You know what I
mean? Yeah.
You get your little pop and whatnot, but I would have liked to just made a statement to show I can do. He's a legend of the business, of course he is. I used to watch him on TV when I was a kid, but I like to have smacked him about, to be honest, to prove a point. Leon Slater, I would have liked to have faced because I don't like to give people too much credit, but I do think he is one of, if not in the top 3 best professional wrestlers in the UK. The UK has ever produced. I know he doesn't wrestle just in the UK. He's signed to TNA and things like that. I would have liked to have faced him and also beat the piss out of him as well. But other than that, I don't really care. It's that they should be the ones wanting to wrestle me. That's the one. If they get to wrestle me, they're privileged, not mine.
And I do want to just ask Mark Hoskins, like last year, you did drop the semi-final to him. You haven't faced him in singles
Oh no.
That's on my end, I think, but I think we're good. I'm not sure if we're
Oh,
good or not. I think we're
sorry.
good. Yeah, yeah, I think we're good now. But uh, Mark Haskins, semi-final last year, dropped shot. When I interviewed him, he was very dismissive of the Progress locker room of the young talent, including yourself, including Lykos. Obviously, you're not much of a fan of Lykos either, but wondering what you think of the fact that Haskins, who is such a veteran of the scene, someone who's been around Progress for so long, what does that do? Is that a match that you really do want to get back, a win that you really do want to get back?
I suppose I never really thought about it too much because my whole mindset at Progress was winning strong style and coming for Lykos and taking that belt. But now that you mention it, I suppose, yeah, I would like to face Haskins again because in comparison, I think I'd rip him a new one now. I don't care if he's a veteran. All that means to me is a veteran is you're just old as fuck. I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do. Haskins has done, and he was a pinnacle of the British scene. He's a pillar of the British scene. But if he's someone that wants to, step in front of me again and thinks he can beat me again like he did last year, he's got another thing coming. But yeah, now that you mention it, that is a win I would like to get back. So yeah.
And we'll go back a little bit of time and your Atlas Progress Atlas Championship reign, and that was a big moment for you in the British scene in general. It was kind of almost a coming out party for you, almost that title reign in general. Looking back on that reign, was that kind of for you kind of a precipice to what you're hoping to do now, which is become the Progress World Champion?
Think, yeah, you could say like that. Like that was I went into that tournament, the Atlas tournament, as the absolute underdog. I don't think anyone thought, and I was definitely probably the smallest person in the tournament as far as height and overall size. I went into that tournament about 208 pounds, 209 maybe, and everyone else was 230 plus, some big guys in there, but did everyone wrong I faced in the end, you know what I mean? And then I won the title, but and I've shown I can win tournaments like that. I've won the Atlas tournament, I've won Natural Progression, and now I've won Super Strong Style. So yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to that. And once I get the title, but I did lose the title eventually after I'm not sure how many times I defended it. Whereas was this time, there's not going to be any of that. Once I get my hands on that Progress World title, that is it. I'm keeping that belt for a very long time. So,
And say, given if you do win the title, obviously Progress World Champion, going into the rest of this year, obviously Progress is starting to really get a lot of momentum under them again. Is there anyone that you'd like to face who's a regular on Progress for the world title? Is there anyone that would just for you'd be able to steal the show as world champion?
it's hard to say really because none of them are as good as me. So,
Fair, fair, fair.
I mean, maybe if I manage to get the title, I'm not going to say I don't have much self confidence because I do, and I do believe I'm going to take that title from Lykos. And then after I take that title, if anyone impresses me, then maybe I would have a better answer. But as of now, this is just about me. So forget everyone else. This is about me at the minute. So.
And you've mentioned it a couple of times now, like you're not what we would say a big lad in general compared to the bigger people in wrestling, but you've managed to kind of make a name for yourself as one of the most brutal wrestlers on the planet with Northwest Strong. Like, so for you personally, what has that been like for you? Even being someone who, like you said, you've slimmed down a little, you're not the tallest guy, but you still have that reputation. What does that mean to you? Given,
I'm glad I have that reputation, to be honest. I never wanted to be seen as someone that's just, oh, he's just a cool wrestler and he does this
yeah,
and this. I wanted people to think, oh, Luke Jacobs, oh, he's a bit of a scary bastard him. I want people to be scared when they wrestle me. I want them to have that fear, the unknown of, oh, how bad is he going to beat the piss out of me? And I'm glad because I always wanted, and my style, I've always gone out of my way to make sure my style reflects that. So yeah.
and just before I do have one more question for you after this one, a bit of a personal one, but for this, one last thing to say for people who maybe aren't familiar with your relationship with Lycos and what this is actually like, what this means to you to take the title off him.
Well, I mean, there's no ignoring, him outside of wrestling in my personal life, my friends, how close I was with Kid Lykos or Ethan Beach, and even Kid Lykos too. You know, that they were my best friends. And Kid Lykos too, I don't really dislike. You know, he's like a brother to me, but I can't even look the lad in the eye and feel any respect for him because he's literally allowed himself to be second to someone like that. Someone who just bitched his way to the top and just got a chance at it. I mean, Kid like us too even won one of his chances for him. What? How can you then win the title and be proud of your accomplishment when you couldn't even get yourself the fucking opportunity? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, it is what it is. And when he did it, he did his promo. He was the one that asked for the shot. He said, "Let's do it in July." I never actually said that. Granted, I don't care. I'm waiting, I'm not bothered. He's the one that said it, and he said in his promo, "Oh, he still loves me and all this." Well, you fucking grow up. I've literally smashed you in the face, and you're saying you still love me. He's just proved my point. The bitch. He's literally just a bitch, and he's proved my point with these little soppy promos. That's not a world champion. Not at all. He doesn't talk like a world champion. He doesn't act like one. Just fuck him. Yeah.
And that person question I didn't want to ask you. We talked about it a little, and you even said there's just so many to pick from when I asked you about beforehand. But just obviously we lost Mad Kurt last year, and he was such a bright light. You knew him well. You worked on the Mad Kurt Forever show in general. So I do want to know some thoughts. Just a nice memory. Obviously, there's so many. A fun memory of him and what it was like to work that Mad Kurt Forever show.
So working with Kurt in Modern Nomad when Tuesday Night Graps restarted under the Modern Nomad banner, I went into that. My whole sort of stint for the first however months it was working with Kurt, and then you know bringing Harry in, and we did the whole sort of Mad Kurt family saga and stuff. And they were honestly to this day some of the most fun I've ever had ever in wrestling. And I would tell Kurt that, I always did. We'd always come back from the match, and I'd always say, you know, oh, that's some of the most fun I've ever had. And he'd sort of sit, he'd always be like distraught, you know, he'd covered in sweat, shot marks all over him. And he'd be like, "Oh, thank you, mate, thank you." And he'd go, and you know, I would literally just beat the shit out of the poor lad. And he'd, "Oh, thank you, mate, thank you." God, it's hard to say actually one specific sort of memory, but just my overall memories of him as a person. I don't think he ever didn't make me laugh ever.
Yeah.
You know, and just some people are so quick witted and just
Yeah.
chat. He would say anything, and he was oh no, I remember. Oh, this was a long time ago. It was at Fight Club Pro once, and he was backstage, and I think I just wrestled, and he would always just sort of. It didn't matter who you were. You could literally be anyone still backstage, and he would just crack a joke, he'd take the piss out of you. And I'll never forget, he was stood there, and I sort of walked past, and someone made something to me, and he went to make a joke. He started this joke, and I just looked at him, and I said, "Be careful." And the fear in his eyes when I said it, I put the joke off, and then you know I remember a laugh about that a bit later. But oh, what a guy he was! Just such a lovely human, and yeah, he was the best. And I'm so grateful I got to work with him as much as I did. But yeah, what a guy! I just loved him so much.
And obviously, like I said, the Mark Kurt Forever show, just a perfect tribute to him. You worked on it. You've been working on Modern Nomad, and just something that I imagine you will probably agree with Lykos on, is he feels like that's what Modern Nomad is meant to be. It's kind of more of an extension of the vision that Kurt had for what professional wrestling could be, and you showed that in your continued, like, you're more of a serious lad, I'd have to say, when you're in the ring, but you really have shown that you can do what Kurt would probably wanted you to do as well.
Yeah, there's no denying. You know, although I'm, you know, outside of wrestling, I'm a serious guy in the ring. I do have a sense of humor, and I have a stupid sense of humor, especially. You know, be a bit immature times, but pro wrestling is as much as I hate to agree with Lykos, you know, he has some correct things with pro wrestling is a variety show. And I think Modern Nomad shows that perfectly. And you know, wrestling doesn't have to be the same thing all the time. And yeah, I like taking a piss and I like having fun, and Modern Nomad's the perfect place to do that, you know. So, and especially the Mad Kurt Forever show, I just knew when I you know, and getting to sort of wrestling his whole attire and stuff, and winning the Keyboard Warrior Championships, I was so proud of, to be the first one. I mean, I could never be as quick-witted as Kurt to actually be a keyboard warrior champion. Christ Almighty, but I was very proud, and it was just such a good atmosphere, and the place was sold out, and it was the perfect send-off for him. Absolutely.
And Luke, you've been an absolute pleasure to talk to today. And do you want to tell people where they can find your social media, your upcoming progress bookings, and so on?
So my Instagram and my Twitter is LukeJacobs00_YG. And my next appearance for Progress Wrestling will be July 28th, when I'll be facing Kid Lykos for the World Champion. Obviously, I want as many people to have their eyes on it as they can, but I hope a lot of people will be covering their eyes when they're watching, because that poor lad's going to get, I'll leave it at that, because I'd rather just people see what happens. So,
excellent way to put it there. Guys, I genuinely keep up with what Luke is doing. He's genuinely becoming one of the, as I said, one of the most brutal pro wrestlers in the world today, taking people's heads off every day of the week. Make sure to go follow him, guys. Make sure to check out Progress, and that match coming up with Kid Lykos is bound to be a barn burner. If you're new to Fightful Overbooked, guys, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'm sure we'll be back with Luke again later in the year. He's got a lot of big stuff going on this year that we'll talk about at another day. But once again, Luke, thank you, and goodbye, guys.